Are Samsung and Apple kissing and making up here or what?
I don't know, maybe they're getting into the holiday spirit a little bit, right? So earlier this week, Samsung basically agreed to pay Apple roughly $550 million as part of this long-running patent dispute that they've had. Their patent disputes last longer than most relationships at this point.
5 years running.
Yeah, which is insane. I mean, I guess it's just a testament to how much they've like dug their heels in and just fought each other on this. Basically, this dates back to 2011. Apple said Samsung was using some of its patented technologies without permission. One of the ones that was cited in some of the examples was the like pinch to zoom functionality in OS. Just to give you an idea of what this case centers on.
Sure.
And so this $550 million, it seems like a big number. The reality is it's a fraction of what the original sticker price that Apple was asking for was, which was at $2.5 billion.
Oh, wow.
And courts had originally awarded Apple $1 billion. Samsung, through a series of appeals and things like that, talked them down to this $550 million figure.
Okay. Is this it? Is it over?
No, that's the problem with this litigation process, right? It's never over. And of course, in terms of like, what does this mean for Apple? Like, this is a drop in the bucket for their top line. You look at the 200 billion plus that they made. Like, this is nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Over the last year. So I kind of wanted to bring it up because I'm hoping that it marks more the end of this like highly litigious era for these two companies. You look back in like the 2010 to just the present really period, and it's just been brutal in terms of like patent attacks. And it's something that Steve Jobs was very adamant about, was protecting tech and patenting pretty much everything. And I think that there's definitely something to be said for that. But I think that this might be the two companies, in addition to some of the other things they've done, turning the corner a little bit and hopefully burying the hatchet. Actually, in 2014, the two agreed to drop their patent disputes outside the U.S. And so they had ongoing patent disputes in 9 other countries at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just insane when you think about the scope that this runs. And I think one of the crazier stats that I came across when I was researching the story was just in 2012, the New York Times had this article, and they mentioned last year, for the first time, spending by Apple and Google on patent lawsuits and unusually big dollar patent purchases exceeded spending on research and development of new products, according to public filings. Which is insane.
To give you an idea of how long this has been going on, how expensive it is for them to wage, this like battle in court against each other over such a long period of time. It's really big numbers.
Yeah, and I think some of this is just the maturation of people getting used to having this functionality on their phones and different devices. And so, like, if a feature's been around for so many years, at what point do you say, like, this is something that people are used to being able to do on their phones? And, there's definitely that element of it. But I do think that both companies are tiring of it a little bit. And maybe, their mom called up and said, you guys need to play nice so that I'll feed you guys over the holidays or something. But there are still some elements of this that need to pass through. So basically, Samsung said once they receive notice of invoice from Apple, they will pay it within 10 days. Samsung is, of course, requesting a Supreme Court review of the case. So there is an appeal in there, but they're willing to pay the fine right now.
Okay.
And there is a clause written into this payment that Samsung would be refunded the money should the U.S. Patent and Trade Office find that the patent should not have been issued in the first place, which is something that has come up a couple times with some of these patents.
Yeah, I've heard that the USPTO has some like internal investigations right now where they're evaluating where some of those early patents that they awarded to Apple might not or should not have been awarded in the first place.
Yeah.
So this is kind of over.
Yeah. There will probably be a follow-up at some point. But I think more than anything else, this is just kind of more like the fascinating side of tech that you don't really hear about much. There's some really interesting stuff written about the patent process and kind of arming yourself with patents. And I kind of urge our listeners to check that out if this is something you're interested in. They get into the process that some of these big tech companies use just because they have these huge legal resources. And, some of it is just resubmitting and resubmitting and resubmitting. It's like this war of attrition kind of against the U.S. Patent Office. And so, that's where you start to see these, should these patents have been issued to begin with type things. But really fascinating stuff. I'm hoping that the two companies can just kind of let it go at this point and, play nice.
That $550 million settlement, I'm not saying it's a small amount of money by any means to these companies, though. Overall, it is pretty much a drop in the bucket. But I think about it. I remember when these when this legal battle first kicked off, back in 2010, 2011, and at the time, when the Android Apple war was like raging full on, I felt like this was almost like a symbolic, perception of which company is like leading the charge in terms of developments of smartphones, like Apple basically claiming, we started it all. Android or Samsung's just copying us with their devices. But honestly, at this point, 5 years later, there's a lot of good phones out there. I just don't think people care that much anymore.